Hello, everybody. Zongets 134 here.
As always, I'm Average Joe Squad.
And welcome to yet another Hyphenated review, the show where we talk about current movies in a hopefully short amount of time.
And hopefully they're not shitty.
So, I know I said we probably weren't going to be doing much more for November and, actually yesterday's live stream, as of recording. But, there's one more movie coming out this November, which we're going to try. This should hopefully be up this Sunday or Monday.
It'll be up Sunday.
Yeah.
Because I'll just make it go live on that day.
But we went and saw Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I apologize that I have two different gloves. I only have these in my coat. It's also really fucking cold because it's winter.
Yeah. To the point that, I figured out what it was. There's ice along my back window, and it's like the snow pellets are stuck in it. They're, rattling.
Oh, gotcha.
I was like, oh, that makes sense now when I was hearing this weird fucking rattling.
Yeah. I don't remember when I saw they were making this movie. It was only a couple of months ago.
I remember that I had heard they were going to reboot it because I remember being like, well, they have to because I'm sorry. They should have rebooted it a decade ago because the Paul S. Anderson movies were just fucking awful. And they just kept getting worse. I don't know why they clung on to those because nobody was watching them at the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think a lot of it was just because Paul W. S. Anderson had so much fucking flack. Because I know he's the producer of this film. But, I don't know. Either that or someone really liked Paul W. S. Anderson. Regardless, this is done by a different director. I can't remember the name, which I apologize. But basically, I remember seeing clips or trailers for this only August of this year, maybe when I first was seeing trailers for it. I know it. I think it won.
I remember you watched it before I did because I was like, as a Resident Evil fan, and I like the original trilogy and Code Veronica. I like the fixed camera angle games. I haven't really liked any of the games from Resident Evil 4 going forward.
Yeah.
But I remember, so I told him, you watch it. I'm gun shy as fuck about a Resident Evil movie anymore, and I'm notoriously jaded about it.
Yeah. But to be fair, I kept seeing the trailers and we got the hunters and I saw, because I remember from the trailers those clips of the mansion were the mansion, they showed the mansion, the fact that we got Leon and Claire and Chris and they were the focus of this movie. I was like, oh, this one might actually be kind of good. And somehow I managed to get you convinced to come with me to see it. But
you offered to pay for me.
Sure, I did offer to pay. Although I think
what have I got to lose?
I think unlike Dark
Phoenix, 2 hours of my time, which. It's a fucking Friday night. I wasn't going anywhere anyway. And I was gonna stay at home.
I want to say this movie is only 2.5 hours. It's not ridiculous.
Good because near the end it was starting to get to the point. I'm like, I want to go home, man. I've had enough. Would have turned this off sooner.
Yeah, so we saw it, and I'll admit, of the two of us, I think I lucked out better with the movie I picked for us to watch on Dark Phoenix.
No, you really did.
But
we went into that knowing that movie was going to be fucking bad, though.
Yeah, we went into this. I mean, to be fair, I was
how I convinced you to go. Was I paid for you? I'm like, I'll buy your ticket if you just go with me.
To be fair, I was cautiously optimistic about this, and I do feel like my optimism was a little bit rewarded. I don't think this movie's a good movie, but it was a pretty fun movie. At least I thought it was pretty fun. I will admit, we'll get into it a little bit more here in a second, but. Honestly, I thought this movie was probably a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Honestly, not super horrible.
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. I'm gonna kind of go middle of the road. I feel like I'm being pretty right on with. Basically, I don't think it was a bad movie, but it wasn't a very good one.
Yeah.
So kind of that middle of the road type of deal. To
be fair, I'm giving it a 6 or 7 out of 10 just because a 6.5 really, just because. I've seen a lot of shitty video game movie adaptations.
Oh, so have I. And again, I sat through a decent chunk of those original Resi movies.
Yeah. And this, in my opinion, is pretty okay. It's not like Detective Pikachu or something like the Hedgehog, where it was...
Or even the original Tomb Raider.
Or even the original Tomb Raider. But this was not nearly as offensive as, say, Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yeah, so before we dive into the nitty-gritty, the meat and potatoes, spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't watched it, we will be discussing... spoilers in this movie, so if you haven't watched it and you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead and hit the big red X over there in the corner.
Also, as a
or
side,
hit the back button up here in the left corner.
I do want to warn anyone if you have seizures You want to watch? I would watch this when this comes out on DVD.
There is a sequence near the end of the movie that is real light, flash heavy. It kind of gave me a little bit of a headache watching it. So
even I was like,
I don't want to know what it would do to someone who's real sensitive to that. So be cautious.
Yeah, if you do want to watch this, I would recommend waiting for it to go on DVD and watching it in a brightly lit room just to mitigate the. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if it was as bad as we made it out to be, but it did hurt. It like I don't even have light sensitivity, and it hurt my eyes.
Yeah, it was hurting my eyes a little bit, but anyway, so there's your warning. Spoilers. Let's dive into it. I'm gonna go first if you don't mind.
No, by all means.
So again, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Again, I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I started with the original one on the PS1. I've played the first one. I played Director's Cut, 2, 3, Code Veronica, 4. I've played a little bit of Survivor. That game, I don't own that game though, so I only played a bit of it. But so like I'm really heavy into the lore and stuff. You know, I've also played Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil Remake. But the biggest thing I had with this movie after watching it was, and I think you'll probably back me up on this, they tried to cram so much stuff from the original 2 games into this thing that, like, if I hadn't known stuff, like if I hadn't played the games and I knew them pretty well, there was a lot of stuff in there that I probably would have missed the impact of that, or like been like, well, like why is that important, you know? That being said, I did enjoy some of the stuff. Like, I enjoyed the references they did, or like how the set design was pretty spot on. Like the Spencer Mansion was very, very accurate to the games.
You said the police department looked really.
The police department from Resident Evil 2 is very, very accurate. I want to say even the Stars room is pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Like, from what's in the game. So like I really appreciated that, you know.
Some of the costume design in here, like Chris and Claire are
straight up out of the game. Yeah, I was like, fuck, this is what I wanted, you know?
Yeah. The only costume I had a problem with was Jill's, because I don't know what the fuck they put her in.
It was like a mesh.
Yeah, because like they had like her crop top from 3, but then she had like the vest from 1 and no beret, which I was like, what the fuck is this where she's wearing?
Yeah. But and as the movie went on, that was probably my biggest thing. And I remember mentioning that to you. I was like, they are shoving so much shit in this game, like into this movie from the games. And then we got like halfway near the end, and they threw in some shit from Code Veronica. Yeah. And I'm like, stop, there's too much shit going on. Like information overload. And again, the clip they showed from Code Veronica, if you hadn't played the game, you would have had no idea what the fuck that was from.
Yeah. Because like, I remember I was like,
I had to explain that to you what that was, because I knew what it was from, because I almost want to say it's straight up out of the game. I don't even want to say it's an acted out sequence. Yeah. I could be wrong though, but with the film grain they had going on, it looked very much like it was the actual game footage.
Yeah.
But like, so like on the one hand, like I'm very happy that there was a lot of stuff from the games in the movie.
Yeah.
In comparison to like with the Paul S. Anderson ones, you would get like maybe like 1 or 2 kind of like throwaway throwbacks to the game.
I remember the one that really pissed a lot of people off was when they brought Chris into those and he like literally just dies. He's just there to die, and like there's nothing with him.
Yeah. So there was that, and like I said, on the one hand I'm very happy they did that, and I appreciate it because I'm I love original Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I'm also just like, if I hadn't been such a big fan of the games, there would have probably been a lot of stuff in there that I would have either not appreciated to the fullest, or like, you know, importance would have gone over my head, or just straight up wouldn't have known what was going on.
Yeah.
On top of it, it felt almost at a point like they were trying almost to shove as much stuff in from the games as they could, versus like actually telling the story. Like if that makes sense. Like it felt like they were geared more towards let's do stuff from the games rather than let's tell us a story.
Yeah.
Like it almost felt like at some point like the references detracted from what was going on. Like the thing with the Ashford twins from Code Veronica, I was like, what the fuck does this have to do with anything?
In a lot of ways, it was like
I get it's because Claire's connected to that game, and that does happen in that game that she watches that footage. But I'm like, How? It's not relevant to what's going on right now.
I almost wonder if that means, like, if they were going to make another movie after this, they were going to do more.
They're probably going to. It wouldn't surprise me if we go on and look that they've probably greenlit a sequel or they're really going for it. But because the ending straight up just sets up with the post credit.
Because my worry is that, like, they're going to do that and then they're going to try and go into 4 because they want to start doing the stuff with Resi 7 and 8.
Las Plagas or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, Las Plagas with Like, but then I'm worried they're trying to get into 7 and 8 because
it felt very much like, and I know I mentioned this in a movie, that they're trying to quick start a cinematic universe, and as we've known from a couple different things trying to do that, it just doesn't work.
Like, to the point they had a mid-credit scene to throw in even more characters from the other Resi games.
Yeah, fucking Ada Wong shows up. I'm like, why? There was already way too much going on.
And come on, guys, Ada's not really a character. Like, I like Ada as much as some other people just because she's hot, but like, then. Some of the acting in this is a little over the top. Like that waitress when her eye starts bleeding and she's like, "Oh, it's been a couple of days." I'm like, this isn't like you've got pink eye or a rash. You are bleeding out of your eyes.
To be fair though, if the pandemic has shown us anything, people will just straight up avoid going to the hospital.
Wrong. Or like the trucker guy when he hits and he just keeps going, "Fuck!" I'm like, bruh.
To be fair, I think he was in shock.
I think the idea was he's supposed to be in shock, but then like when he gets bit by the dog and like, it's less the shock and more like the way he does the shock, where he just says "fuck" like over and over. Like, I get it. Like, relax. Then, the other actor I thought that was really a little too over the top was Police Chief Irons, because my God.
Oh yeah, I'm like, dude, dial it back, please. I'm begging you to dial this shit back.
That scene where he is chewing out Alpha Unit, or they're Alpha Unit, right? It's Bravo and
Alpha Team.
Yeah, Alpha Team. Like, when he's chewing out Alpha Team, I'm like, guy, breathe. I know you know what the siren is, but breathe.
Yeah, but it just felt like they were, like I said, I hope I'm explaining it correctly, that it just felt like they went from trying to tell a story to let's just cram in as much shit as we can. And while I get it was probably the writer is actually a fan of the games and he's played them, and he wanted to throw in stuff that people would recognize if you played the game. It just felt like he was playing a game of how much can I throw in before it becomes fucking ridiculous.
But to his credit, a lot of what he did was pretty good. It was mainly once we got Jill and Chris and Leon and Claire into the mansion is when I think it got a little overboard.
Yeah.
Because like, for one, I think they used a lot of the music from the games, because like there was a lot of there
was a lot of cues in there that I recognized.
There's a lot of the stings in there. But like the fact that we had like stuff from 1, we had Lisa Trevor
from the remake. She's not in the original Resident Evil. She's in the remake.
Like, to the fact that like they like, honest to God, if I were to cut this movie, I could take the Code Veronica shit out of there, and I feel like this movie would probably still be mostly the same.
It would, because that fucking showing that footage added nothing. Yeah. I don't know what I know it was probably to set up the next movie, which I'm like, are you guys just gonna run fucking 4 and Code Veronica together? Because if you are, no fucking thanks. Code Veronica in itself is already way, way complicated.
Yeah. Well, then, like, to be fair, the other thing was they tweak things, because like in that Chris and Claire are orphans that were raised by the Umbrella Corporation in the Raccoon City Orphanage, which, as someone who I know a lot of Resi, I didn't know if that was actually a thing or not, that they were adopted. Or
I can't seem to remember that, but it wouldn't surprise me if that is the case. I'm pretty sure their parents are dead.
Well, because
they didn't grow up in Raccoon City, I'm pretty sure.
And I certainly don't think they were raised by like the main villain of like.
No, when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Okay, yeah. Because again, can't have just a villain that's not somehow connected to the main hero's past. I'm tired of that trope.
Well, then I think
just have a fucking villain that ain't related to somebody.
I feel like there was also supposed to be a subplot where the reason why Chris and Claire were as capable as they were is because they were experimented on by Umbrella to give them. Because I feel like they wanted to try and explain. Because I feel like what they're going to do later movies, they're going to try and have Chris punch a fucking boulder, and I'm like,
if they do, I'm going to get them to leave because I'm sorry, this is the dumbest fucking thing in any of those games.
Like, as someone who enjoyed 5 purely because of how bad it was, I enjoyed things in 5, but my God, like, that was when, like, they really were starting to up how ridiculous they can make those games, which is why, like, they went with an entirely different direction in 7, which you and I both agree. I'm not
a fan of 7. I know that's an unpopular opinion on the internet, but I'm not a fan.
Well, for me, what I saw of 7, I'm like, there's, like, no zombies or, like...
Yeah, I'm just like, guys, I'm sorry. Resident Evil is a game about fucking zombies.
Well, and then, like, in 8, you have, like, the werewolves and the vampires, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why are we in Castlevania?
Yeah, it's like...
We've, like, lost almost all of the... what makes Resident Evil.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like a lot of that was trying to set up that, like, Claire... Because, like, they try to imply that, like, all the police in the Raccoon City Police Department have been, like... I guess given antiviruses or antibodies for the...
Which I want to say was from the games, but I don't want to say that because I'm not sure.
Which is confusing to me because...
it could be something from the remake, and I haven't finished the remake of 2. So
well,
I'm running off of my knowledge of the original Resident Evil 2.
Well, because it's also weird because, like, they Leon is implied to have only been here, like, maybe a couple months or, like, a couple weeks at best. Given, like, the backstory they have
whereas
with
in
Leon.
the second game, I mean, him showing up, that's his first day is when the city goes to complete hell.
Yeah. That and, like, and I know that's how Leon's supposed to be in 2. I know I forgot a lot about 2, but, like, to be fair, there's a lot of times where I'm just like, Jesus Christ, could you guys give Leon a little bit of, like, a break? Like, Jesus.
Listen, the biggest crime in this movie is they didn't give Leon his fucking Backstreet Boys haircut. I'm disappointed as fuck at that one.
I think they did that because they were afraid Leon would look too much similar to Chris. Like, at least hairstyles.
I mean, maybe, but, like, Chris has, like, a buzz cut. Like, almost. Well, why would you want...
Like I said, I think they were kind of worried.
Fine. Which, again, but it's like...
Then, like, they gave him a goatee in this, which I'm like... I remember Leon having a goatee. But, like...
He kind of does in 6, but the less said about that game, the better.
Women. That line is, like, one of the worst lines ever. But no, like I said, I liked a lot of the things they did for the first half of this film, but like you, I agree. The second half really peters out because they have to get everyone together.
Yeah, they just have so much fucking stuff.
Then I'm sorry, the effects budget started running out at the end of that.
That explosion at the end when they blew up Birkin with the fucking rocket launcher. I told him that effect looked fucking terrible.
Well, then when he went full tyrant,
it looked like a fucking PS2 level graphic.
Well, then when he went full tyrant, that looked really cheap. Like, a lot of the CGI was fine for the most...
looked really fucking bad, is what I remember. But, like, for the most part, up to that point, he looked pretty goddamn decent.
Because clearly, like, they were using practical and real or CG there. Like, with the eyes, those were clearly CG. But, like,
with
some
that
of the...
last one, that was all fucking CG. That was completely all CG.
Really cheap.
I'm like, damn, how does a game on a PS4 look better?
Oh, I did love the line where Chris is like, where Leon, like, where'd the fuck did you get the rocket launcher? He was in first class. I'm like, thank God you at least explained, because, like, Leon literally just came out of nowhere.
He comes out of nowhere with a rocket launcher. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, the movie's at an end now. We got a rocket launcher. It's like the games.
Yeah. I also, but, like, because for the most part, I didn't even think the CGI was that bad. Like, when they did the dog.
Until they got to the end. Yeah. Like, it was almost like near the end they ran out of budget, but like up to that point, it looked really fucking good.
Then I had forgotten that the mansion was self-destruct, because when it self-destruct, I forgot that it was even rigged. So I was like, why is the mansion just falling apart? I thought it was like Castlevania, where like, oh, they slew Dracula. No, so now the castle has to crash.
Well, you're sitting there like this, and I'm like, God damn it, put your hand down. I can explain this.
No,
you don't need to be mad.
It wasn't even that I was mad. It was just I was lost, because I was like, oh right, they did rig, because like they didn't.
Yeah, I was like, I can explain, man. Just chill.
For me, it was less. that because like it was like, but like they didn't set up that the mansion was rigged.
Yeah, they didn't at all, because at least in the game they at least mention that that hey, the mansion's literally gonna self-destruct.
Like not even Wesker as he's dying states that. Also, I thought that in that scene where he gets shot again, I thought they implied that Sherry shot him.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh dear God, because Sherry does come back in Resident Evil 6.
Yeah,
and she's hanging out with Wesker's kid.
Yeah, well, I thought that, and I'm like, oh come on, you guys gonna kill Wesker like that? A little kid shoots him, but then it was Jill. But
also, I'm sorry, the Wesker in this was fucking lame.
Yeah, he was kind of like
lame sauce.
He was, for one, I feel like he was like a fusion of Barry and Wesker.
And again, no motherfucking Barry Burton. Yeah, no. Again, I am gypped on this.
Yeah, I know.
Put Barry in a fucking movie already.
I know.
There's no excuse for this shit.
I know. We got the Jill sandwich line, but we didn't get motherfucking Barry Burton.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand why they don't want to use Barry.
The other thing is they made Wesker out to be kind of a heroic character.
Yeah, and I'm just like, no, that's not Wesker. Yeah, Wesker is a dick.
Well, especially because they didn't...
Even in the original game, the cutscene, you can look at him, he's a dick. He looks like a dick.
He has bleach blonde, slicked back hair.
And the fucking original live action, he's just going like... I'm like, stop. You are obviously a bad guy.
He looks like the douchebag from Good Burger. Like,
he really fucking does.
Which to be fair, he's the reason why that guy looks like a douchebag. But no, you know what Wesker really looks like?
Who?
Fucking Spike from Buffy.
No, he really does.
Like
honestly,
which I like.
And that game came out before that, so it's just kind of ironic timing.
Yeah. So Whedon's like, slick your hair back and make you look more like an asshole.
But no, yeah, just that was really my biggest thing, was that it felt very much like the movie took a back plot, like a back seat to setting up a cinematic universe that obviously is what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Along
with just trying to cram in as much shit from the games. Yeah. And it's like, because I remember hearing, and I told you this in the theater, that they were talking about making a Fatal Frame movie at some point. I don't know if that project is is any longer in production, or if that's dead in the water, or what's going on with it.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if Capcom's gonna try to start a cinematic universe with their shit. You know, like,
God, I
so you're gonna have like a Fatal Frame movie, or like a Haunting Ground movie, and then like I'm just like, guys, not everything needs a fucking cinematic universe.
Yeah, like, especially
because it works for Marvel because there's already a universe there.
Well, then
you can't just link all your games.
Well, then certain
like
things,
that.
Unlike comic books where weird shit can just mesh,
Resident Evil for the most part is pretty realistic to a degree.
Yeah. Like, I know
the zombies and the fucking weapon shit is real off kilter, but like for the most part, up to a point, Resident Evil kind of like hangs on it's a survival horror game.
Like, I know I was joking to you that they'll make a Devil May Cry movie and try to merge this, but I really hope they don't. Like, I wouldn't mind a Devil May Cry movie, but like, first of all, I'm gonna make you see it with me.
I don't.
I know you don't. I would go see that myself.
I'd sit through another Silent Hill movie.
No, but
or I'd go see, if they did Fatal Frame, I would at least be willing to go see that with you.
Yeah,
because that would probably be at least interesting.
But like, if they tried to mesh it in Devil May Cry, I'd be like, that makes no fucking sense. You're telling me that not only is there like this giant evil mega corporation, but there's also demons and like demon hunters running a fucking bout, and like they don't really meet.
Yeah,
or like, I would not want to see them try to do like Street Fighter, or God forbid try to somehow do Resi with Mega Man. Like, how about fucking no?
Yeah, to me the whole time near the end of the movie, I just remember that review you told me about before we went and saw it, that it captures Resident Evil while also showing this shit can't be done on film.
Yeah.
Which I really felt I kind of understood where he was coming from.
It's way too ambitious for trying.
They should have just picked. Do you want to do the first game, or do you want to do the second game? Because even with the second game, you could merge 2 and 3.
Yeah,
almost, because they take place at around the same time period.
Hell, like, not to give Anderson that much credit, but he did kind of do that with when he brought Jill in, when they straight up just did 2 and 3.
Yeah, but it's like they're trying to jumpstart something, I can tell, but like, man, it really kind of got off the pad.
Yeah.
But it started faltering about when it hit the stratosphere, like the rockets started giving out.
Although my personal favorite thing we did get was the CGI cow getting blown the fuck up by.
Oh, I remember that. I was like, why is that necessary?
Like,
that poor fucking cow did nothing to deserve
And again,
this.
the CG there was so fucking fake because like that didn't look at all like a real cow.
Yeah.
I know it's probably because I lived on a farm all my life. I know what a fucking
would a cow move like that? Would
yeah.
a shockwave hit? Would a cow move like that?
I'm pretty sure the cow wouldn't have because it looked like like the movie Twister when the cow's stuck in the fucking water spout. Which for the record, that probably wouldn't be how that would be either.
Also, listen, I don't know if you noticed this when they were in the cave, like when Wesker was in the cave and that bat sound kicked on.
Oh yeah,
that is the goddamn sound from Batman TAS. I'm not lying.
Yeah, actually, that is.
It doesn't repeat like it does in the show, but I swear to God, that is the same fucking sound effect. Yeah, I would know it anywhere.
The bat sound effect you're talking about. You're talking about like the one when like they're in the cave and the bats.
Yeah, the bats go fly around.
Yeah. Okay.
That one. Like okay, in Rebirth, like the beginning, right before he does the Never Again thing, that sound, it is that same exact sound effect.
Yeah.
They cut it halfway through so it doesn't repeat like it does in the show, but it is, I recognize
that's
it's
probably just because that's a stock sound effect.
It is, but it's just, it took me out of it.
I know what you're talking about now because like whenever they were in the cave, they had a rule that they never played music. And I think that was true even in like,
well, they break that in Rebirth because there's music in Rebirth.
Well, they broke it a couple times, but like for like when they're just
you know the sound effect I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, because like again, there's almost always
it's probably
no
a
music.
stock sound effect, but like it's like hearing the Wilhelm scream or something. It just takes you out of it. So I think a lot of those have stopped using that fucking Wilhelm scream.
If I were to say any of the references that really was super forced, it had to be when that lady wrote "Itchy Tasty" on the fucking
that
window.
Was real forced. I was like God damn. I guess not even the same context at all.
They just wrote it, and I'm like what the fuck did that have to do with anything?
Yeah, so
because a lot of the references, while I eventually they got a little too much, at least they tried to make them make sense.
And they, like I said, they tried to show stuff from the games. You know, that like they weren't ashamed to show it.
Yeah. You know, like that when they did the original zombie reveal when they got into the mansion when he turned around.
That was like, straight up out of the game. That was like, holy hell.
That was amazing.
That was good. That looked great.
Or
like the truck thing where the tanker falls over. That's straight up out of 2.
That's straight up out of 2. Like, you know, like again, the zombie dog looked really good for CG for what they did. Again, most of it is done practical, which I liked. I know some people talked about the birds because those birds are animatronic.
I wouldn't have been able to tell. They looked pretty good.
Well, especially because I'm like I would have known way more if they were obviously CG than if And I know they do move a little odd, but I'm like they're supposed to because they're
infected birds.
With birds. They're infected with the T virus, or I want to say it was the G virus towards the end.
This game makes me really want to go and play Resident Evil 1. I'm not gonna lie. Or at least listen to the soundtrack.
Then if I were to give any, I really hate that scene when Dr. Birkin somehow recognized Claire despite the fact he hasn't seen her in years.
Oh my God, that was dumb. I'm like, what the fuck
how the fuck do you recognize Claire? You're only seeing her eyes.
That is such a trope. Like, I recognize you by your eyes. I'm like, no one does that.
Again,
I can't recognize people sometimes with their fucking masks on.
Yeah, Claire hasn't even been in Raccoon City for like 5 years.
Yeah, what do you fucking mean?
I get Chris recognizing her because they're siblings. The other thing that I think you wanted to bring this up. Jill is terrible in this because they don't get her character right.
I don't want to be mean, but like I don't really like the actress they picked for her. But I don't even think it's the actress's fault.
No, it's the acting.
Let me finish.
Or not the acting.
It's the writing.
The writing.
The writing. They do nothing with her.
No.
Like I really feel like, again, we're in a situation that kind of like what I had with Eternals.
Yeah.
We got too many bucks in the room, and not enough time to develop the fucking characters the way they should be.
Yeah.
So some of them just don't have anything. And it just is... As somebody who really loves Jill, I mean, I have her beret. We wore it for a Resident Evil retrospective.
Yeah.
That was real disappointing to me.
For me, it was the fact that like they murdered her to be like a psychopath. Like that scene where she was gonna straight up shoot the ketchup bottle off Leoff's head with a fucking actual gun.
Yeah, and I'm just like, guys, like I don't even police, like the first rule of having a gun is you don't ever point it at anything you don't intend to shoot.
Like a lot of my problems with that is like
that's like just basic gun safety.
I feel like they were trying to write her like she was the way she was in 3, where she was a little bit messed up from like the events of 1. But even in there, it's like
it just doesn't work here.
Well, not that, like she hasn't been messed up yet.
Yeah.
like I know.
Oh, and the whole romantic subplot with her and Wesker was that was fucking weird. I didn't like that. That was really fucking
like to the point where like some of the things that we have for Jill's character is given to Claire. She unlocks a door.
Yeah.
She's the master of unlocking instead of Jill.
Although to be fair, Claire also can do that.
I mean, fair, but like who would you expect more to see unlock a door? Jill. Well then, or like when they're in
like I said, there's too many characters and not enough screen time.
What I was gonna get to was the end when they're in the train. They do the scene where like instead of Jill putting her head on Triss, it's Claire. You know, like that scene at at the
end of the first game.
Yeah, I was like, that was really obvious that's very different.
To be fair, that is also out of Resident Evil 2.
Well, I mean, also fair, but like,
yeah, that. There was just so much they tried to do, and I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Like they were real ambitious with it, and I mean, I always say if you're gonna do something, you gotta aim for the stars.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta go as high as you can get. It's just a lot of times the outcome will not always be as good as you wanted it to be. I really feel like that was a case here. Like, when I heard they were doing stuff like from the games, I was kind of hopeful. I'm like, well, maybe it'll be closer, and it was. It's not as close as I want it to be. So I'm satisfied, but I'm also frustrated.
It's at least a much better step in the right direction than I think a lot of the other.
It definitely is. It's just I hope they take criticism well and learn like, hey, what people are saying about this one, like, hey, you need to improve on this, and this. And just make a stronger film with the next one.
Because honestly, my really biggest thing was I just think they need to focus on one game if they're going to do
they need to stop blending shit. Pick one and just do it.
Yeah, that was
if you want to monkey with stuff in it, that's okay. I get changing stuff up so it's not totally predictable, but them meshing like two different games, it just didn't work.
No, that I really do agree. And like you said, like a lot of the characters don't get like zero like moments to shine. Like Leon only really gets to like shoot maybe a zombie. Chris is like forgotten for huge swabs of this game.
Claire like gets the most development out of
which is
all
weird
of it.
She really doesn't have that much screen time if you really look at how they wrote her in.
Yeah.
Like Chris actually I think has more screen time than her, and he's not even really in the movie.
Yeah. They really relied on the audience going to see this and would know the characters and would know the events, and so they kind of felt like they didn't have to explain stuff.
Yeah, this really felt like
it's really a case of like they really relied on that way too fucking heavily.
Yeah, this film really is written for by fans for fans, and that's not always a good thing.
It comes off as a real professional fan film, in my opinion.
Yeah, like it really it acts like these like games, and so which I think is a detriment to it as much as I enjoyed it. Like
I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's a detriment. I think it's an advantage, because like to the people that know, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, this is kind of what I wanted to see, and the people that don't, they're gonna be like, well, I know nothing about what's going on. Yeah,
like, especially because like the fact that the film drops you in a point where like Umbrella is like kind of on the outs, because like one of the other things I thought was really weird, they make Umbrella to be much more of like a more podunk's like rural town than what you get out of the games, where it's more like
a sprawling metropolis.
Yeah, I'd argue it's like a Jersey City, or like probably it's supposed to be like New York,
or like Pennsylvania, or something.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh probably.
Actually, yeah, Pittsburgh would
probably like Pittsburgh.
But like here, like it's so podunk to the fact that like there's only like really like a handful. It's almost like it's I'm trying to think of a town that would be like like the ghost town that Silent Hill's based off from PA.
Centralia,
because I know apparently there's still people that live in Centralia.
There are very few, and they really don't recommend you go there. But
yeah, which I'm like, why would you want to fucking live there. But yeah, like I said, some of the changes were fine. Like, honestly, for me, mostly, it was just the third act falls apart a lot. And again, some of the acting is really
wooden.
And I don't think it's really credit to any of the actors. I think it's just the writing.
The writing just left a lot to be desired.
You know, they're like, come on, it's a B movie. Like, ham it up. And I'm like, yeah, but you're hamming up to the point where it's kind of obnoxious.
Yeah. So,
But
yeah, final rating, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Again, I don't think it's a bad movie. I've seen a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah.
But it's not really a great movie either. But, I mean, if you know the games, I can probably recommend it. You'll probably at least get some enjoyment out of seeing stuff from the games and seeing how well they translate and stuff. But if you're kind of more casual viewer to the series, like, you know, you might have played like Resident Evil 4 or played Resident Evil 5, I would skip this one because unless you're willing to do some research and stuff, like,
you're gonna be
you're gonna miss you're gonna be lost. Like, you're gonna miss a lot of stuff.
Like, I don't have nearly the amount of experience he had with this.
I had to explain some stuff to you, and I'm like, thank God I knew the lore on this.
And to the point where, like, it doesn't explain certain things. Like, I got, like, honestly, I feel like probably a lot of people would have been like, why is the mansion falling apart? Because they don't state the mansion's rigged to explode, you gotta get out.
Yeah.
Which they could have easily fixed by having Wesker say it before he died.
Yeah.
Or even have, like, Sherry or her dad say, you gotta get out of here. I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's definitely a very, like, accurate to the game's film, and I think there's some great action scenes, and I think it's well paid. It's pretty fun, but it's not a well written movie, and some of the effects and some of the camera work are a little sloppy to the point where, like, again, there's like a scene where, like, straight up I worry someone will have a seizure if they watch it. But overall, I think it's a fun film. I think you'll get enjoyment, and if you're not really into it, you might enjoy it just for how kind of B-movie / schlocky it is. But otherwise, I can't really recommend it as, like, a great movie, but it's definitely worth your time.
Watchable.
Yeah, it's watchable. I certainly enjoyed it a lot, even if it was kind of dumb in places. But overall, I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. And while I think this movie is flawed, I am kind of curious to see what they'll do next, if they are going to make a movie next. But honestly, I'm not really sure, given the fact that, like, we're still in the pandemic, and I don't think a lot of people are going to want to go see this, especially considering the original franchise was so bad.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end, but who knows? But anyway, guys, do you have any final thoughts before
No, I'm good.
I was about to wrap this up, but that's gonna be it for this episode of Hyphenated Reviews. Come back next week when we start Spideymas. I'm Zongetsu134.
I'm Average Joe Squad, as always.
And this has been another episode of Hyphenated Reviews.
So everybody take care.
We got to work on an end phrase for this.